Hello, this is Warlord 12, and today I really need to address something when it comes to Capcom and, Street Fighter in general, because I'm getting tired of all these YouTubers or, just just a bunch of random people on the comment sections, right? And they really think that Capcom has really changed, that they think that Capcom is actually trying to make real video games, or that Capcom actually cares again, or all this, just this nonsense, right? All this garbage. Like, you don't realize how fake Capcom is, bro. If you've seen their track record aside from their track record, just the things that Capcom has done and what they're still have been doing, you would know that Capcom has been fake with Street Fighter 6. I'm going to say this, yes, I'll more than likely buy Street Fighter 6. I like Street Fighter 6, but I'm not going to sit here and act like, Street Fighter 6 has no soul. The only reason why I would even buy Street Fighter 6 is mainly because, some of the characters and some of the combat mechanics that I like about the game. You know what I'm saying? Somewhat of the graphics and art style. But other than that, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and, pretend like Street Fighter 6 is like the best video game ever or the best fighting game ever. Because it really isn't. And people are trying to overhype it. You know what I'm saying? There are people right now who are supposed to be, judges for, or I should say, not judges, but basically, people that are on the mic, they're just spectating, basically people that commentate for, the new Street Fighter 6 game. And I have to call this out because it's just like, there are people there, when it comes to Street Fighter 6, that are commentating. There's a lot of them that know that Street Fighter's, basically that Street Fighter 6 is basically a bootleg Street Fighter, that it's not a real Street Fighter game. And they're not going to say anything because they're trying to make money, right? Off of, basically for like their career. And then other than that, it's just like Capcom is paying people like this to make sure that they say that, that the game is good, to overhype the game. Because even Capcom doesn't even believe in their own game. That's pretty much what it is. And before I really get into what I'm going to say, what I'm saying about Street Fighter 6, I need to say this because Capcom is basically like Blizzard. I'm pretty sure for those who have seen certain things that have been going on with Overwatch 2, and there's still Overwatch 1 no matter what, but you know what I'm saying? The thing is, why I'm comparing those two, because Capcom and Blizzard are both like hand in hand, like the same. When it comes to like, ripping people off and things like that, doing dirty underhanded tactics and stuff like that. I have to say it, because Capcom, you really are just like Blizzard. Capcom, just like how Blizzard bait and switched their whole audience when it came to their PvE mode, what have you been doing? You've been baiting and switching when it comes to Darkstalkers. And for those who want to keep trying to damage control on Capcom and things that Capcom have done and what they still do as a company, and when we talk about things like, the baiting and switching, you need to stop defending them, man. Like, I don't know why people want to just try and defend Capcom so badly, but it's not working anymore. Especially when people like me are going to speak up about this stuff, it's not working. And I need to say this because Capcom, what you have been doing when it comes to Street Fighter 6, your video game is a poser of what real Street Fighter is and what it looks like and what it even sounds like. Like, if I had to talk about the music, even the gameplay, it's just a poser. Capcom, the reason why I say that why your company is a poser and your video game for Street Fighter 6 is a poser, it's just like a good example of when it comes down to, skaters, real skaters and fake skaters, right? How you actually have people that they wanted nothing to do with skateboarding, right? They didn't find anything interesting about it, but because skaters started getting attention, Now all of a sudden, person wants to look like they're a skater, but they're not a skater. Or look like they actually use a skateboard and do tricks, but they really don't. That's just like you, Capcom, trying to make your Street Fighter 6 game look like it's a real Street Fighter game, and it's not. Your Street Fighter game has no soul. Literally. It has no soul put into it. Like, it's all fake. Like, I don't understand how people can't even see through it. But I also know there's a bunch of people who are YouTubers who are overhyping it and they know it's trash. And I need to say this. You know what the best part about this video is? It's not clickbait. It's unhinged, talking about the problems with Capcom and what they've been doing. You know, all the lies, all the stuff that people have been doing when it comes to defending Capcom. And Capcom baiting and switching their whole audience. Other than Darkstalkers, you know why we don't have a rival schools right now? Why we haven't gotten it yet in the first place? Is because Capcom doesn't even have faith in their own franchise. That's why. That's one of the main top reasons why we don't have other fighting games like rival schools. Because here's the thing, people want to take a break from Street Fighter. We like Street Fighter, but a lot of us know that there are other fighting games that Capcom has in their arsenal, and they won't bring them out. They won't bring them out with, you know what I'm saying, they can give us like mechanics that they've been doing with Street Fighter 6. And other than Street Fighter, the mechanics for Street Fighter 6, a lot of those games are already good on their own when it comes to combos and combat. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, think about how well those games would do when it comes to being combined with those types of mechanics. Or mechanics are even better than that. You know what I'm saying? And for even games like Rival Schools, right? That's why Capcom keeps on making Street Fighter games. You know why? Because it's easy. The reason why Capcom does this is because they're lazy. They don't actually want to learn how to make a great engine that would help when it comes to making amazing graphics for, you know, Capcom games. But why do you think they keep on using these cheap and, you know, like what are these, like these clay-like animations for Street Fighter? It's like a copy and paste. It's like a Matrix. It's like you never get out of it. It's like the same thing when it comes to Call of Duty, as far as how mediocre the game for Call of Duty is, and people are tired of that game as well. And so it's like the same thing with Street Fighter, except like I said, we like Street Fighter, but we need to take a break from it. It's kind of like in Dragon Ball Z. We like Goku, but we want to take a break from Goku because there are other amazing characters with great backstories and great, you know, they have great, amazing fighting styles, things like that. Or, you know, their character designs. And I mean, the show isn't called Goku, it's called Dragon Ball Z. For people who say Darkstalkers is dead, I want to know one question. Are you saying Darkstalkers is dead because it wouldn't make good money? Or are you saying Darkstalkers is dead because you know that Capcom doesn't want to make another Darkstalkers game? You know what I'm saying? It's one of the two, and that correct answer is a pretty obvious one. Like I've already been saying, Capcom doesn't want to make another Darkstalkers. And I need to say this. You mean to tell me a game like Darkstalkers is supposedly dead? Alright, so tell me why it is that, you know, tell me why in a video game like Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate, right? How Capcom put Jetta in the game. You know why they put Jetta in the game? Because they knew that character would sell when it comes to Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate. They knew people would more than likely buy the game because of him. And who was Jetta? A Darkstalkers character. Don't tell me that Darkstalkers is dead when you got stuff like this going on. Capcom knows what they're doing. But you want to know one of the main top reasons why Capcom won't even make another Darkstalkers game? Not intentionally wanting to make one? It's because they don't care about the legacy fans. Because they know that the real fans, when it comes to Capcom and games like Darkstalkers, you know, when it comes to FGC, Capcom knows that people like that, when it comes to the FGC or, you know what I'm saying, hardcore Darkstalkers fans, that they're not going to let them get away with stuff like what they've been doing with Street Fighter. You know what I mean by letting Capcom get away with certain things? I'm talking about if they made the Darkstalkers game right now They wouldn't go. A lot of people wouldn't go for that cheap animation that they're trying to go for. You know, when it comes to Street Fighter, and a lot of other things when it comes to animations or choreography. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the top main reasons why Capcom doesn't want to do it. And please don't use that lame excuse saying that, oh, it's because of the FGC and people like that, you know, their demands are just way too high, or, you know, that's probably why Capcom doesn't want to do it, because they can't please everybody. That is the lamest excuse ever, because we all know when it comes to gaming and gaming companies that they can meet people somewhere in the middle. They obviously, it's like this. They could do certain things that they know that you know, hardcore fans will be okay with, and then certain things that they know that the, you know, like, you know, newcomers will be okay with. You know what I'm saying? That, you know, both parties would like. You know what I'm saying? But Capcom, they don't want to do that. They don't want to go through that. That's why we haven't gotten a new Darkstalkers game. Like I said, enough is enough with these excuses. All of you, like the ones who've been really defending Capcom so hard, it ends today. It needs to stop. It's been going way too far. And when it comes to all these people, when it comes to damage controlling, especially, you know, certain YouTubers, I'm not going to say any names, right? It's just as bad as what Disney has been, you know, when it comes to Disney and Star Wars, right? How people try so hard to defend Rey and her character and all the stuff, all the trash that's been going on in the new Star Wars, that's how bad it is. It's just like that. Please don't try and sit there and try to defend something like this that is just as bad as what Disney Star Wars is. Because there's no way you could try and defend that. There's no way. And it's very insulting and irritating to have to hear people say that Capcom is really turning things around, that Capcom actually cares again, or that they care about people, they care about your game. If they really cared so much, right? You know what I'm saying? It should be obvious. The reason why Capcom is doing what they're doing is because they know they need the money. They know they're losing money without making Street Fighter 6 the way it is. And even at that, you could tell it's just trying to be like, you know, games like Third Strike, for, you know, Street Fighter Third Strike. And it just isn't. It's like, it's almost like one of those comedians that tries to be a tryhard. You know what I'm saying? You could tell it's not working. And just so you know how lazy Capcom is, you know how they introduce a character like Jeddah when it comes to Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate? Out of all the Marvel vs. Capcom games recently, like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Ultimate, right? Why do you think Capcom didn't put Tall Bane in the game? Because they know people like Tall Bane. They know that newcomers are going to like Tall Bane. You know why they won't put him in? Is because they know he's broken. Yes, we get that Tall Bane is broken. That doesn't mean that Capcom can't rework the character to still be fun and playable and still have his combo strings and things like that and just make him balanced. But they don't want to take the time to do that. Do you see what I'm saying? That character is all I want to consider Tall Bane to almost be almost like the face of Capcom, like Ryu. But that's another thing I need to talk about when it comes to, you know, Capcom and Street Fighter in general. That's why the problem with Capcom is you know what I'm saying, it's almost like they waited too late because they rely too much on Street Fighter. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't showcase all their characters like they should be doing. That's why some people probably aren't interested, because this is the road that Capcom took. And I need to say this because why do you think that in my intro, you know, Tall Bane is in my intro, but not Ryu? You know what I'm saying? I have Chun-Li in my intro, but why do you think I don't have Ryu in my intro? Because Tall Bane is the GOAT. You know, Tall Bane is literally better than Ryu when it comes to combat. Like, why do you think he's not in the games? Because he's too broken. You couldn't even say that for Ryu. You know what I'm saying? Now, obviously, I'll probably be making another video about why I believe that Tall Bane is better than Ryu, as far as combat goes and more things. But moving on, obviously. I have the receipts, so you can't sit there and try to say clickbait. It's not happening today. And by the way, I worked hard on this video. Anytime I try to work on this video, there was always something that would happen or interrupt. I give you Exhibit A. So, with this information, I'm going to say this about Capcom. Capcom is basically just like Blizzard when it comes to wording certain things in a certain way. So, this is coming from basically one of the executives at Capcom. Or, people that work at Capcom. Either way, I'm going to read this anyway. I genuinely want these titles to be played once again on current gen consoles. I also want people who may have seen them but never had the chance to play them to get this opportunity. That said, we do not think that this will necessarily, now pay attention to these last few sentences, will necessarily increase the possibility of the series being revived. Now, Capcom, just like Blizzard when it comes to Overwatch 2, you bait and switch your whole audience. You know what I'm saying? And I really have to mention this when it comes to proof and how Capcom is when it comes to the video games. See, right after this, you know what happened? You know what the fans did? Basically, people in the FGC and people that were fans of Darkstalkers, you know what they did? They went and took back the Capcom Fighting Collection after they saw this mess. Because I'm going to go into a little bit more when it comes to what, Capcom's wording. So, what you see here when it comes to, where it says, necessarily, that this, they don't think that'll necessarily increase the possibility of these series being revived. And it's like, we all know how this all works when it comes to Capcom and, video games that, you buy, certain video games of a certain genre, or like, for instance, of a sequel or something like that to get, more sequels and stuff like that, right? And Capcom already knows the rules. So it's kind of like, you know the rules and so do I. Okay, enough of, all seriousness here now. But when you look at how this is all worded, this is how you know that Capcom baited and switched their whole audience. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously, when it comes to, numbers for what Capcom's looking for, because obviously when you look at the wording in this whole thing, you start to see that, Capcom was looking at their numbers. And it should be obvious that it could have been enough, or even more than that, for the people who had the Capcom Fighting Collection. But since this wasn't enough for Capcom, the FGC and the Darkstalkers fans said, you know what, we're just going to refund this game. You know what I'm saying? So this is just to be clear with people, how Capcom is, how it really is. Because people really want to think that, Capcom is really turning things around, that Capcom really cares. You know what I'm saying? And this whole wording thing, I see a lot of YouTubers kissing up to Capcom. I'm not going to mention any names, but there's a lot of YouTubers out there that truly try to defend this when it came to Capcom. And I'm like, yo, why are you trying to defend Capcom about stuff like this? Why do you keep damage controlling? You know what Capcom's doing, but you're going to keep damage controlling them? Come on, bro. And I need to say this when it comes to before someone tries to do more damage control on what I said, or, what I'm saying, people that want to be a captain save the day, I'm going to make sure that I let you know something about this whole thing. Because this isn't just about like, oh, maybe Capcom's just letting people know because, there might be just a bunch of people who just bought the fighting game collection just, for the Streetfighter games. Yeah, that's not entirely the case because we all know there's a ton of people that bought the fighting collection for what game? For what now? Darkstalkers. That's what people mainly bought the game for, including myself. You know what I'm saying? Because I know how people want to try and twist everything. You know, and people made sure to buy the new Darkstalkers game so that we could get a new Darkstalkers game. So Capcom, you have no excuses for what's going on now. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty obvious that, you know what I'm saying, with your actions, we all know you don't want to make another Darkstalkers. You know what I'm saying? You probably barely even want to make a new Rival Schools game. It's clear as day. You know what I'm saying? You can't make this stuff up. And it should be obvious that I'm not done yet when it comes to the receipts, because I want to make sure that, you know, you, Capcom, and everyone else sees the game that you were going to bring out, but you didn't bring out when it came to a new Darkstalkers game. You know what I'm saying? You baited and switched on that as well. And before I really get into it, I want to make sure I let people know something, because after I'm done with this video, I'm going to make sure that I make a video on Devil May Cry, because, you know, people have been overpraising that game. You know what I'm saying? When people acting like, you know, Dante and Devil May Cry, you know, started everything. I'm gonna make sure that I expose that as well, because there's a bunch of stuff that people are trying to hide behind. Like people that, you know, they don't want to accept the truth about what really is going on with Devil May Cry. You know what I'm saying? People trying to hide like the evidence under, like, you know, underneath the chair, hide it underneath the bed, all this other nonsense, bro. People don't want to accept the true facts. Now, I'm gonna say this about this, you know, article right here. I'm not sure recently if this filter that Capcom decided to use for Street Fighter V is online, but I do know for a fact, you know, as a matter of fact, that's the whole reason why I made this video, because Street Fighter 6 is all about the money. It's not about, you know, the heart of Street Fighter. It's not the, you know what I'm saying? It's not about what, you know, what real Street Fighter looks like. You know, this is classic Capcom right here. So I'm just letting you know that. So when you look at this for the filter, right? Tell me why when Capcom made this filter, tell me why, if Capcom cares so much, right? If Capcom cares so much, why is it that this filter, right, it was offline only when it came out? There's no way. How many years did it take for that filter? Like 7 or more years? There's no way you're gonna sit there and try and defend this mess. And that's what I'm saying about Street Fighter 6. All the stuff that's in the game, it's not like they were really gonna try and do something like that. They don't care. They are doing all this stuff because they know they're losing money. Because they know they're pretty much at the bottom of the barrel. You know what I'm saying? People want to act like they really put some passion into the game. No, they did not. This is why I say on the title, Street Fighter 6 is a lie. Now I need to say this about Capcom. Capcom, not only do you bait and switch your whole audience, you also use bribery. You're just like Blizzard when it comes to Overwatch 2. Or, no, sorry, Overwatch 1, right? Because that's what it really is. But, you know, I had to call this out. You see this game for, you know, Darkstalkers. And, you know, I put this receipt right here. I put it on the screen so anyone could just type this in and go watch it on the video, right? Because that's the point of this whole thing. It's been 10 years, and we were supposed to get this game for the new Darkstalkers. And of course, we didn't get it. And when I talk about bribery, I'm talking about how Capcom will dangle a carrot in front of people's faces, and then it'll just be like, oh, well, you know, Capcom didn't make enough money for Darkstalkers, so we don't have any Darkstalkers. And it's just like with the fighting game collection, just like when it looked like it was going to be enough sales from the Capcom collection for, you know, people buying it for Darkstalkers. All of a sudden, Capcom wanted to be like, oh no, that we're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that you know what I'm saying? It's just like stuff like that with the whole bait and switching. Capcom, you know what you're doing. A lot of people know what you're doing. We're not stupid. Like, come on, you need to stop playing these games. You know what I'm saying? You know, now other than that, I'm gonna also, get into when it comes to the graphics for our new Darkstalkers. People would say, oh, the graphics wouldn't look good. I'm like, what do you mean the graphics wouldn't look good? Capcom could go to, what, Bandai and make like a, Dragon Ball Fighters like graphics. Because here's the thing about the graphics, like right for versus Mortal Kombat or versus Street Fighter and Tekken, right? When Dragon Ball Fighters came out, it was just like people were upset because it's just like it's not 3D, it's not 2D, right? It just basically you could say like, oh, we're just anime graphics, but it worked for the game. And I'm like, they could literally do the same thing for a new Darkstalkers game. There's no excuses, and even then, it's like you could still do the same thing when it comes to, like, let's say for instance, if you're trying to go for like realistic graphics, right? Obviously, the route to go for that would be Final Fantasy Advent Children. You know what I'm saying? When you look at graphics like Advent Children, that's what you would use for, even when it comes to, for an example, like a game or a live action graphic like game like Marvel vs. Capcom 4, something like that. You know what I'm saying? And when we talk about live action like graphics, that doesn't mean it just has to be, oh, we're going to just slap live action graphics on the game. No, it's not just, oh, you use live action graphics. You use live action graphics when it comes to a certain art style that would work for the video game. You don't just slap an art style on a game and like, oh yeah, that's going to work. It doesn't work that way. You know what I'm saying? These are just examples I'm giving you. So you can't keep on using all these excuses for why there's no Darkstalkers. Capcom just doesn't want to do it. You know what I'm saying? Capcom is lazy. But that's enough of trying to explain that because you already know, and it should be obvious to people. It's just I have to repeat myself about certain things because people are really out here, with being a keyboard warrior and making all these ridiculous excuses. It's like people make all these dumb excuses, but I see no one actually trying to come up with ways to make certain things work. And it's not just like, oh, you got to come up with ways. It's just like it's pretty obvious what Capcom can do or any company can do when it comes to graphics. It's just like, come on, dude. Like, really? And I need to say this because when the trailer for Street Fighter 6 came out, people were people are going crazy, overhyping the game. Like, all the graphics are going to be like realistic, and people talking about it being like, oh, like Tekken and all that other stuff nonsense. So I'm like, look at the graphics on my video for this game. It looks like it wants to be like Tekken or better than Tekken when it comes to graphics, but it's just not working. Like, and that's the thing about the Street Fighter 6 graphics. These graphics are just like, it's like they're all over the place. It's like the game Street Fighter 6 can't even make up its mind for what type of graphics it wants. You know what I'm saying? With all the scenes and all the things, like, you know what I'm saying? Throughout the whole game in the gameplay, it's like you see all these graphic changes. And you know what I'm saying? You look at Chun-Li's face right here, right? It's like, it looks like, she wants to have those good-looking, amazing graphics, like PS5 graphics, but it's like her face won't allow her to. I mentioned the face part because Capcom, time and time again, they never want to fix these characters' faces. And even Ken, what does Ken look like? He doesn't just look like some angry bird. Ken look like, Ken looks like the Masters of the Universe. Talking about, I have the power! That nonsense. Like, come on, bro. It's like, I know people try to use excuses like, oh, the characters are older now. Like I said, people are going to use as many excuses as they can. You know what I'm saying? It's like people don't want to come up with a real solution. Just excuses. But other than that, it's just like, when it comes to like characters like Ken, right, and his face and all that stuff, I know people want to use excuses like for instance, people want to say, "Oh, like how dare you talk about the graphics of characters' faces and stuff like that." You know, they'll say, or you know, the NPC talk, or they want to say stuff like, "Oh, like you're an incel, that's why you're, you know, talking about stuff like this." People that say stuff like this remind me of the people that complained about the Alita Battle Angel movie character, you know, like the character Alita, when it came to her design and graphics, and people were getting jealous because they couldn't look like her, because they couldn't meet, you know, those specific expectations. It's just like no one asked you to meet those expectations, and but even then, it's just like, you know, this is society. But you know, back to when we talk about graphics. When I'm talking about graphics, I'm not talking about graphics for these characters to be a simp. I'm telling you from, you know, a gamer's, you know, standpoint, or you know what I'm saying, when it comes to, you know, people that make video games or people that are experienced when it comes to video games and art style. You know what I'm saying? It's not, for me, it's like it's not that simp garbage. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let you know right now, I'm a tribal person. I'm Chata. So it's not like, oh yeah, like a nerd's gonna come over here talking about characters' faces because they're simp. No, that's, maybe those are some other videos, but that's not on this channel. I'm gonna let you know right now. Like, we're not doing that garbage. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, again, when it comes to these characters, you know, face design, Capcom just time and time again, they don't want to fix it. And if Capcom does decide to fix it, they're only going to fix it later on because they want money. They don't actually care. You know what I'm saying? And this is the problem with gaming when it comes to graphics. You know what I'm saying? This is like next-gen gaming, right? PS5 or new Xbox. Why do the characters' faces look like this? Does that make any sense to anyone? Paying $500 and this is what we get? Does that make any sense? And, you know, just a few more receipts, like, you know, just like how Capcom baits and switched their whole audience, just like with Street Fighter 5 and the beta that came out. You know what I'm saying? It was you know, in the beta, the game was fast, but then when the game actually came out, you know, it was just slow. And it's like, Capcom knew that people wanted the game to be fast in the first place, like Third Strike, but they didn't want to keep it that way. So it's like, again, showing how Capcom is all about bait and switch. Graphics, it's all about jiggle physics. It should be obvious that